Hello there, and welcome to our webinar with MClimate and All IoT Technologies. I'm Craig Herriott. I'm the Sales Director of All IoT. Thank you very much for attending. So just to go through a couple of bits first of all, the webinar is obviously around MClimate's new products, but we are going to start off going through a bit of background at MClimate, a bit of background about All IoT, some of the products that sit within MClimate and the areas they sit with, and then we'll get on to the actual new products and where they might fit. So, hey Lubo, how are you? Are you doing well?
Hi, I'm great. I'm great. We just had our first snowfall 2 days ago here in Sofia. Yeah, I'm feeling great.
And it sounds very cold with snowfall. So, Lubo, for the people that are in attendance, could you tell us a bit about you personally? Obviously, it's your company, which is great. So, yeah, tell us a bit about you.
Yeah, about myself, I started out pretty young with programming. I remember the reason to go to the IT classroom was because I didn't have a computer at home. And then the teacher was like, okay, let me show you a game. And the game was, C++, not a really exciting game for a 7-year-old. So yeah, I started going to competitions. If I gotta be honest with you, the first few years, I was losing every competition. But then, I started to, understand things. So by the end, I was finishing high school. I already went to a bunch of national, international competitions for competitive programming, which is essentially algorithms. They give you a problem. Actually, they give you 4 problems, and you have 3 hours to, create the algorithms and submit your work. And yeah, around the same age, I also started my training Taekwondo, which is a Korean martial art. And yeah, I've been doing it for a very long time. Got my black belt at some point. Not really. I wasn't in a hurry for this, but then I started the company, which is almost 10 years ago. And, I had to focus on this one. So I haven't been programming for a long time. I haven't been, doing Taekwondo for a long time. Yeah,
So what we're saying, what we're learning from this is that there's no problems with any of the products because otherwise you could put us in a headlock or something. Right.
yeah,
I guess I should just talk for people that don't know me. So we started there's three of us. We had another business. So I'm Craig. I'm into water skiing and kind of some other exercise stuff. Definitely not martial arts. Um, I've got 3 kids, so they keep me quite busy, and I am a bit of a geek. I mean, I took apart a phone when I was about 5 or 6 years old, probably about seven actually, 7 or 8 years old, that my parents were incredibly angry at because when I put it back together, I didn't use all the pieces. It worked, but it was one of these old phones that used to dial around,
yeah,
and it no longer clicked, although the DTMF tone still worked, so that was good. So kind of been a bit of a geek for years and years and years, and joined another company. So this is one of the 2 companies that All IoT is part of, ProView Communications, which specializes in distribution of VoIP hardware. So we use session initiation protocol, SIP signaling. Um, and after that's 25 years old now, so we're really experienced within distribution. We then 5 years ago decided that we'd start All IoT, which probably gives me a great segue actually into talking about All IoT and what it does. So All IoT, we provide a full service stack. Lubo, you've got, yeah, perfect. It provides a full service stack. So we started the business thinking that what we would do is we would do exactly the same as ProView. We would buy bits of plastic sensors, maybe gateways, and then we would sell them with some wraparound services so that people could just go and deploy them, so that they would turn up on site, someone could stick them to a wall, plug in a gateway, and then they would have their own kind of a network server and an application server. And we quickly worked out that the channel wasn't there. So we didn't want to deal with end users, we wanted to deal with integrators. But we quickly worked out that the channel wasn't there and the education wasn't there for what we was trying to do. So we ended up being a bit more of a managed service provider, but still one that sits behind its integrators. So now we actually have that full piece. So we'll supply you the hardware, we'll supply you the network server if you want, we'll supply you the application server, we'll do all of the provisioning, we'll even give you free consultation for whatever it is that you're trying to deliver. And that's kind of how we've developed, but we've remained that we want to be a channel managed business. Primarily the kind of, I say the ethos, the ethos of the company was always going to be that we wanted to be really, really fair with everybody. And what we want to do is we want to give people value so that they can go and deliver their services to the customer. The other thing that we wanted to make sure is that everything we did was modular. So if a customer turns up and says, right, we just want the gateway, then that's fine. They're going to use their own sensors. If they wanted to just use MClimate sensors and they wanted us to provide a network server, but they had a gateway, then that's fine too. So at any point, we look at it like Lego. We just plug all the pieces together, and the bits that the integrator already has, we remove, and then that integrator can use that themselves. So that's kind of a bit about us. We're primarily a tech-based, we're technically focused rather than sales. I mean, whilst we have salespeople in the business, really they're more consultation. Very little is done outbound. Everything is an inbound conversation. And when you phone us, we will answer. And then you will be talking to a reasonably technical person in the very first instance that will be able to give you a consultation, primarily over the phone, if not email and Teams. So that's a bit about All IoT. So Lubo, I'd like to just get you to talk about MClimate. Obviously 10 years old. You started it, which is very impressive. So yeah.
Yeah, just a few words before I start about the company. I view your role in the ecosystem as very critical because the system integrators are used to other types of technologies. And yeah, we can look at LoRaWAN like a Lego for sure, because this is the philosophy of the LoRa Alliance. You can take one device and it's going to work with whatever gateway you choose. But the devil is in the details, and I view all IoT as an important player there because you're obviously educating the market, but you're also helping for the success of the project. Because if I have to be honest, sometimes things might not work because somebody forgot to check a checkbox, which they might not understand what it is, what this checkbox does. But yeah, just you getting the expertise on the network side, but also on the sensor side, and then helping integrators. You've been a great help. So yeah, and about the MClimate, we started back in 2014. So this year we celebrated our 10th birthday. We essentially started the company with a slightly different vision. It was more about smart home, and we were focused on Wi-Fi products. But then quickly, I would say 4 years in, we started receiving some requests for more of a B2B approach, where we saw some integrators asking for our devices to be integrated into an entire building. And around 2017, 1 year earlier, we actually started experimenting with LoRa. So we did the mistake of first implementing a custom LoRa protocol, and then we realized, okay, LoRaWAN, has a number of advantages. So we transferred 100% to LoRaWAN, and yeah, we're headquartered in Sofia, Bulgaria, which puts us at a certain advantage because obviously, salaries are a bit lower than compared to the EU, and we can get some pretty technical personnel, at lower cost. But what basically unlocks this is, this unlocks the possibility for us to manufacture here locally. So, we as a company, we're not a big team. We're 30 people, engineers. A lot of the people are engineers, and then we have some, salespeople, which we're training to be technical as well. Some, back office, but we're employing right now 2 production facilities here in Bulgaria, which basically we employ between 50 people and 250 people, depending on what is the load of the production. So far, we've done over 500,000 devices, which are installed in the whole world, basically. But something that is in our DNA is that we try to do things that are, universally compatible. So, okay, we're in the LoRaWAN business, but we see some LoRaWAN companies, manufacturers that are essentially building a software on top and then, locking the hardware to be able to work only with this software. And this is not our philosophy. Yes, we do have a software which kind of highlights what are the possibilities with devices. It serves as a quick POC instrument, but then in the meantime we try to document everything as thoroughly as possible, so that the devices can be integrated into other systems as well. But now about our portfolio. So I would say we're in the beginning we were one of the few manufacturers that actually started with actuators and not sensors. And the LoRaWAN deployments of actuators are quite different than just sensors. You got to make sure that the connectivity it's always there. Basically, if you go towards actuators, you have to deal with issues that the sensors only don't have. Okay, about the portfolio, we separate it into those 4 segments. So the first one is climate optimization. There we have a few thermostats. We have the Wiki, which is a radiator thermostat powered by batteries. We have the HNT, which is just a humidity and temperature sensor, again powered by batteries. We have the wireless thermostat, which is essentially an electronic paper display. It has a solar panel as well, so it has the option if you wish to put batteries on the back, but honestly you don't need them because the solar panel itself, it's tuned for indoor lights and does the energy harvesting very well. It also has a movement sensor, PIR. And the last thermostat that we have right now is the Fenco thermostat, or I call it sometimes the hotel thermostat, because this thermostat, it replaces the old thermostats that have, you can select the fan speed, you can select the temperature, maybe you can select the mode. And I'm not going to be naming any brands, but basically in most of the hotels where you see a big vent that is pushing air, and you have this thermostat where you can adjust the fan speed, you can fit it with our Fenco thermostat. And what is the benefit of this? Essentially, all of those devices are working with LoRaWAN. So we've retrofitted hotels in a matter of days. The previous status quo is that somebody has to go to the room to check if the guest turned off the thermostat. And now everything can be done from reception, or it can be done automatically if paired with the booking system. Then we have the water control. We have 2 products. One, it's a flood sensor, sensing basically if there's water underneath it. It also has a temperature sensor inside. Then we have the T-valve. The T-valve is a water shutoff valve, roughly 12 years of battery in the worst conditions. And it is also used for Legionella prevention because it also gives you the temperature of the water that is running through the device. It is drinking water certified, and it's primarily used, yes, for Legionella, but also for debt collection from utility companies, meaning if somebody doesn't pay their bill, instead of sending somebody to stop the water, the hot water, because you cannot stop the cold water in the EU. But if they don't pay, you just do it from distance. We have the air quality and CO2 monitoring portfolio, where we have a typical CO2 sensor with traffic light, a button to check the current level. It is again powered by batteries. We have the CO2 display LoRaWAN, which looks like the wireless thermostat, but instead of setting the temperature, you can see the CO2. And again, it works without batteries, just from the solar. And then we went a little bit extreme with the CO2 display light, because in the light, you don't even have the option to add batteries. But it's again a CO2 sensor with temperature, with humidity, and the solar panel. In this case, the display, the in-paper display is a little bit smaller. And then last but not least, we have the automation devices, where we have an open-close sensor with a small button. It also has a temperature sensor inside and a multi-purpose button. which also has a temperature sensor, but essentially when you click it, something happens. In our office, we have paired the 16 amp switch and power meter we've basically installed it everywhere, but now we're controlling the lights instead of from a single switch. We control it from a bunch of buttons where we can control every light individually. And yeah, here we have nested the two new devices, the 16 ASPM and the 16 ADS, as we call them. But let's leave them for now, and I'm gonna get back to them later.
I was just going to say, so one of the things that All IoT does is that we test every single device before it makes anywhere near our kind of our portfolio. And what I would say is that when we talk about MClimate bringing a new device to market, the tech team, and specifically the tech director, Paul, some of you on here may already know him, is really, really pleased that MClimate's bringing a product to market because the quality is fantastic. Every time we test devices, we generally have to go back and forth with different manufacturers, but with MClimate, it's just awesome. And I know that you're going to get to kind of your software solutions, but even those, we're really, really pleased and very proud to be a partner of MClimate.
Thank you very much. I cannot say that we haven't had issues, but I think discipline is a large part of being a successful manufacturer. And I'm going to speak later about quality. But yeah, I mean, the amount of tests that every device goes through are a very big list. Essentially, each device has its own, as we call it, release procedure. So we have to test it from hardware perspective, but we also test it from firmware. And yeah, just sometimes on the dev team, they're like, oh, but we're going to release a new firmware, and now we have to, go through the same procedure again. And of course, you have to do it because we want to make sure that those devices reach customers and are working 100% reliably. Yeah, something that, for example, we've done in order to minimize the cost of deployment is we decided to invest only in configuration over downlinks. So the devices themselves, they always have some way to tell you if they're connected to a network, but once they're connected, you can configure absolutely any parameter of the device through a simple downlink. And something else that we're doing that we haven't seen other manufacturers do is the ability to send a few commands together. So some manufacturers, you have to send one downlink at a time. So if you want to change the target temperature, it's one downlink. And then if you want to, let's say, change the mode, it's another downlink. Whereas with our devices, you can append downlinks. So configuring a sensor with, let's say, specific uplink interval, measurement interval, allowing some settings, a system integrator can do it only with one downlink, which is, makes things easier. But yeah, the way we work is we essentially offer only the hardware solutions. So open protocol, you can integrate them anywhere. Or if you wish to get started quickly, you can get also our software, which we call the MClimate Enterprise. The Enterprise, it's a kind of building management software, which only includes our devices. We don't want it to become this, a general app IoT platform. Quite on the contrary, we want to showcase how our devices are working, how they can be integrated into other systems, even how visualizations can be done for the other systems. But yeah, we work with distributors in the key geographies, and those distributors get us in touch with the market. So the market usually is obviously utilities, utility service providers, telecoms. We have a few very successful telecoms, and also facility managers. But I think where our product portfolio really shines is the optimization of energy. So we have huge success with energy efficiency companies and energy advisors. The ESCO companies, usually they make the investment themselves and then agree with the customer, okay, now so far you've been paying X, now we're gonna pay Y, and they're cashing in on the difference, basically, of how much they've saved. So for them, it's super important that the products are working well and they can save energy because this is where they get their profit. And last but not least, obviously, integrators, building automation integrators, and also some SaaS providers that we've seen, love one of our product or a few and then they integrate them into their own software and start selling like crazy. But so far for 10 years, you can imagine that we've acquired quite a few happy customers, and I would say the most one of the most critical aspects of why those companies decided to work with us is first the long battery lifetime. So we have a lot of investments in terms of effort as well, going into making sure that those devices are working with batteries for the longest amount possible. But obviously, a lot of those companies are really motivated by the opportunity to save not only energy but also CO2. And I think the coming few years, with some new regulations in place around the energy classes of buildings, we're going to see a lot of more buildings getting, smart. But one of the most important aspects I view this business is the quality and reliability, because we all know that if you install something in a building and you have to go there again for some reason, just the cost of the visit is super expensive. So, and we're doing some OEM for some big conglomerates, and obviously they're expecting a certain level of industrial quality. So we integrated and certified by ISO 9001 and 14001. But on top of that, we're also adopting a lot of the rules, so to say, from the VDA 6.3. And the VDA 6.3, it's kind of like ISO 9001, but it's the quality management system for automotive sector. So it's way more requiring from us. But we also had an audit on this, and yeah, we passed successfully. But kind of just shows you that we're really committed to the install and forget mindset. We don't want our devices to have any issues on the field, and we view this as critical. And the way we design our devices from the very start, even when we just have an idea, is we try to think about how do you just install it and then forget about it. Then we're not the cheapest on the market, and there is a reason for that. We are investing into this quality, we're investing into new products, but I think that sometimes cheap hardware, it's expensive project. So cheap now might be very expensive later, and the worst case, the worst part of this for me personally is that we see some integrators choosing cheaper products which later don't work as expected. And what happens at the end is that the end client is disappointed, and they might say, well, we don't want to deal with LoRaWAN because it doesn't work. We're proving the contrary. We also think about the future, obviously. So
Sorry, Lou,
we
but I was
try
just
to
going to
make,
go on to,
yeah.
I just wanted to mention on your point about cheap hardware. So as we're distributor, but from the consultant point of view, we've had a number of clients that have come to us and asked us to spec projects. And the basis of us bringing on products has always been a good, better, best scenario. Best being kind of very expensive, and this was kind of even around the Cisco kind of branding type stuff, and then kind of different levels below. And I remember a particular instance where a client, we suggested a product, and they said, no, it's too expensive. We said, well, actually, we think this is the right product for you. And they said, no, definitely too expensive. We found this, we want to use this. We advised them against it, but obviously the customer has to make their own decision. They then went ahead and tried to deploy it. This was for 20 or 30 sites they was doing initially. So the POC was a large POC, proof of concept, just in case. They deployed it. I think they deployed 5 sites and then came back to us and said, can you take these off our hands? Can you sell these products? To which we said no. And they said, because we need to move to the original point that we said that they should do. And that's really, that's your point, that the amount of times that you go out and people will say, well, this does the same thing, but it might not last 10 years and the quality might not be as good. But in the end, that was really expensive for them. So I'm pretty sure there is a load of vans for this particular customer with a lot of this product that will never be used, and effectively they'll just throw that away. So it was a big cost to them. Thankfully, the project didn't fail, but I could see a lot of cases in which people would say, actually, LoRaWAN just does not work, so I'm not going to use it. But clearly that isn't the case. It's about what you pick. Sorry to interrupt.
No, no, it's perfectly fine. I think that's a great example. Yeah, I mean, one of the best types of customers we have is somebody that already felt a project and now wants to work with our devices. And I'm not saying that our devices are flawless, obviously. We constantly have ideas about new features, etc. Um, but I think it's important that people don't go the cheap route, because cheap is not necessarily working even as expected. And with LoRaWAN, LoRaWAN is great, but it's designed for so many use cases where you can change one parameter and then all of a sudden your device can consume twice as much energy. Um, but yeah, I mean, we're trying to get as close as possible to everybody that uses our products, because we have the technical expertise and we can help them be more successful, essentially. But getting back to the reliability and quality part, we in 2022 we launched the firmware update over the air feature, which allows us to, if we launch a new firmware for one of the devices, to just update it over the air, not have to go and exchange devices or reprogram them at spot. So we are eliminating this visits to the site, and obviously you get the nice progress bar. You can see exactly how many percent have been updated. And it happens pretty quickly. If I have to compare it with the option to go to the site and update devices one by one, as it's the case with some other LoRaWAN devices, the Volta just works amazing. It might take a day or two to update all the devices, but at the end, you know that you're at the last version of this firmware. And obviously the last version is the most stable version. But another thing that we're doing really, and this year we invest a lot of resources into this, is the accelerated live testing. Because you make a device which is supposed to work 10 years on batteries. You do all the calculations, you see, you do the power profiling, of course. But then, how do you simulate 10 years in a matter of, let's say, a few months? So there are, different ways to do it, but we've done it for most of our devices, and we've simulated more than 25 years of real life usage. And we of course don't know exactly how many years the devices are going to be used. Those devices might be used for 10 years, 15, and then something more amazing than LoRaWAN comes in, changes them. But we try to achieve the longest amount of life of the device. And we approach the basically the development of IoT products as kind of rocket engineering. So we're testing the limits of every device, conducting a lot of experiments, just noting down everything, and kind of like scientists, just explore where it breaks, why it breaks, and how we can improve it. But to the next point, reliability and quality, I think that's a must. But kind of our strategy of the portfolio, it's a lot geared towards the future of ESG. So you can see that, for example, in the E column, we have some thermostats which are saving energy. Even the sensors, even a simple temperature and humidity sensor can show you that you're wasting energy somewhere. In the S column, obviously, we're doing the air quality, CO2 levels, kind of taking care of the comfort of the people, also through the temperature. And then in the G column, we essentially try to stick to the EU regulations for reporting of, ESG reporting. And we try to get the data from the devices, make sense of it, and then help our customers to prepare their own environmental reports. And yeah, I mean, we also want to do the ISO 27001. The audit is right now pending. And we also want to do the B Corp certification. And honestly, we want to be the first EU company that starts, in the LoRaWAN space, obviously, but that starts counting, exactly how many kilowatt hours have we used for during manufacturing of the products. What is the environmental footprint of the plastic? And just basically looking at the entire life cycle of the device. And we are investing efforts into this, and I think sooner or later it's going to pay off. But it just shows our commitment to both quality, but also the mission of the company, which is to essentially help decarbonize buildings. Yeah, and as I said, yeah, we have right now quite a lot of clients, a lot of deployed projects, and Craig, maybe here you can help me if you can tell a story of a project with us.
Of course, I've got a couple actually. So if you look kind of three buildings to the right as such, you'll see Office 3000 Vicky. We've got an exact solution the same as that. So we used Vicky, which are the thermostatic radiator valves that sit in the radiators. We used PIR detectors and temperature sensors. And what we did really is we've got an old mill, so 3 stories tall. Obviously, it's as insulated as an old mill could be. It runs on 2 gas boilers, and we spend an awful lot of money heating this mill. This mill holds 2 businesses. So it holds ProView, the company that I talked of before, and all IoT downstairs. And what we've got is we've got a lot of room. We've got warehousing at the very base. We've got offices on the midsection, and then another set of offices upstairs. But that's a lot of empty rooms a lot of the time, because we've got lots of huddle rooms, meeting rooms, demo rooms, and then we've kind of got sales office, tech office, etc., etc. And what we was finding is we was heating these rooms despite nobody being in them. So a simple change of putting a temperature humidity sensor in each room, a PIR detector, and a Vicky TRV allows us to only heat the rooms when we're in there. Now, we managed to save around 1/3 of our gas costs monthly just by implementing this change. Now, other return on investments may be slightly different. We've got lots and lots of different rooms, which obviously means that we heat significantly less now. But when people do attend the rooms, then obviously the temperature will change to 18 degrees Celsius, recognize there's presence, and then allow that radiator to warm up. So that's a great example of using MClimate devices to understand presence and to save energy, but also to actually make the rooms more comfortable. Because obviously, if you're looking at an individual room that's small and you set that gas radiator to kind of TRV level 5, and it's a smaller room, that you open the room and you're hit with a load of heat. So it actually is an improvement for the people using the building as well as just a cost saving. The other one I was going to talk about is a kind of second row and one to the right, which is school buildings. So for a while, there was a lot of funding, certainly around Scotland area, for schools to be able to put CO2 monitors within the premises. We, as a distributor, we should have understood this, but we didn't quite, if I'm honest. So we did some research into why that was such a big deal. And the high levels of CO2 have kind of more effects than you'd realize. So the first of all, it actually makes it harder to concentrate. So CO2 makes you drowsy, makes you lethargic, therefore concentration levels of students studying and listening to their teachers, etc. They're not going to get the best results because they are lethargic, they're a struggle to concentrate. High levels of CO2 can cause headaches, etc., etc. The other thing, it actually affects attendance of schools as well. So it's not just that I go to school and I get a headache, so I don't want to go. It's actually because high levels of CO2 enable diseases to spread a bit more effectively. So if someone's coughing and it can carry itself in the air as such, yeah, there's a higher level of absenteeism within school. So we've done, I can't even think now, but an awful lot of schools, certainly around Renfrewshire area, with CO2 level sensors. And that did actually generate some other ideas. That what they did is once they put these in, they've now leveraged the network to then also put in some return on investment in regards to energy monitoring solutions as well. So yeah, some 2 really positive case studies that both ended up delivering an actual cash value back, which is awesome.
Yeah. About the CO2, it's basically, we're constantly breathing air that was already in the lungs of somebody else. And if the CO2 goes too high and somebody's sick, the chance of you inhaling those virus particles is, gets higher. And we've seen also cases where they pair a CO2 sensor with the actual ventilation system. So, the ventilation system, even in our own building, if I gotta be honest, it's not like we own the building. We're just renting it. But they told us we can either put the ventilation 24/7, or we can make a schedule. So from 8 until 6, it works. And that's it. And then we kind of told them, guys, there's also another way. It's called demand-driven ventilation. Let's put those sensors. Let's call the system integrator that installed your BMS, and let's get it working. And we actually did it. So now the levels we have a few offices. Currently, it's only one of them. But when the levels go above 800, the ventilation kicks in until they become lower than 600. And there we're obviously protecting our people in the office, but we're also saving energy and not really wasting it, so to say. And about Wiki, yeah, a few advantages lead to those savings. I say that there's an easy 30% of saving in almost every building. And even if you just fit from the old thermostatic valves, which have the 0 to 5 scale, when you're on, let's say, scale 5, it's essentially fully open until the temperature goes above 29, 30 degrees. But if you compare the reaction time of the old thermostat given Wiki, Wiki reacts every 10 minutes. And the old thermostat, the usual reaction time is 40 minutes. So you get those big, swings of temperature. Whereas with Wiki, we are saving energy essentially just because we have a pretty precise control of the target temperature. When you want to say I want 21 degrees, we maintain 21. We don't go to 23, 24 as the other ones. And this, although it happens in a small amount of time, it actually generates some savings. But yeah, instead of just pictures here, I wanted to just give you a few examples of different types of buildings that have been fitted with our devices. All of them have generated savings, and yeah, hospitals, office buildings, hotels, all of them have seen actual savings. And the truth is that with Wiki, the installation, you don't need to drain any pipes. You just, unscrew one nut and then put Wiki, and that's it. But that's it about the current use cases. I think the reason for this webinar are the 2 new devices which we recently launched, and I'm going to get into the details right away. So here are the devices. Not sure if you can see them on my camera, but you can see how small they are. If I compare them with, let's say, my AirPods, you can see how different they are. But we have 2 devices which are very similar, but I'm going to explain the difference. One we call 16 amps of switch and power meter, and the other one it's a 16 amp dry switch. So the switch and power meter is obviously a switch, so a relay inside, but also has an electricity meter. But the thing about this one is that it can only switch live. So the circuit that actually powers the device, goes to the end terminal. So if you power the device with, let's say, 24 volts DC, you're going to see 24 volts DC at the out. And here you can see we have 3 terminals essentially. We have L, N. Again, N, it was just for easier wiring to avoid some, connections like with Vago or something. And then we have the L out terminal as well, which when the relay closes, this is where you get the power. So both devices can work with AC voltage or DC voltage. AC, it's for the States and also for EU, so 100 to 240 volts. And DC, it's from 24 to 30 volts. Then the max switching power, current first, it's 16 amps for the AC and 10 amps for the DC. But the reason why we wanted to do it 16 amps is because basically in this way you can fit it on. Basically, the circuit breakers in most apartments in EU are 16 amps. So we thought, okay, if we make the relay 16 amps, then it can be installed virtually anywhere in a residential or commercial building. The max switching power amounts to roughly 3.8 kilowatts. which is again quite big. The reason for this was also being able to handle heating equipment like space heaters or water heaters. Both devices have firmware upgrade over the air. So if we launch a new firmware, if we add some new features, you're gonna get them. And then the 16 ASPM, the one on the left, it also has the electricity meter. So you get sub-metering in a way. So you get the kilowatt hours, you get the voltage, you get the current, you get the power. And this is with every uplink interval. By the way, both devices work in LoRaWAN class C, which means that, okay, they report every X amount of minutes, which by default is 10 minutes, but then you can send commands to them, in real time. So class C allows you to send commands to the device and for the devices to receive them immediately. Whereas class A, which are usually operating on batteries, they can receive commands only when they send command, essentially, when they send the information. And we have, again, opted in for higher quality compared to price. But the relay that we use inside, it is UL and TÜV certified. The electricity meter inside, it's again, it gives you the MID accuracy. So it gives you the same accuracy as kind of a household electricity meter used for billing. But it is not MID certified. And the reason for this is in order to MID certify a device, you gotta have a display. And we decided, okay, we're not gonna make such a small device and then put a display on it. But the terminals also UL and VDE certified. VDE is the German code for electrical installations, essentially. And we've put some protections inside. So, for example, the over temperature protection, this usually happens if you are using the wrong size of a conductor. So you might be controlling a very big load, like 16 amps, but with a small cable. So the cable itself heats up. But also it helps us identify in case of an installer not really tightening the cable well. We can see that the temperature is rising, and of course the device cuts off the power supply, but we can notice some installation issues just by the temperature alone. And we also have the over voltage, over power, and over current protection for the 16 ASPM. So to the wiring diagrams, which are also printed on the device itself. But for the 16 ASPM, you can see you power the device through here with 100 or with AC or DC voltage, essentially. It passes through the electricity meter, and then here is the switch. So when the switch closes, essentially you get the same signal as you put in L, you get it at L out. And then the reason why we have two terminals here is essentially, you can imagine if you cut a cable, you have 4 cables sticking out. So just put them in the 16 ASPM and that's it. No Vargo connectors, quick and easy installation. Install and forget about it. Whereas the 16 amps dry switch, it's quite different. Here, the circuit for powering up the device, N and L, is different. It is separate than the circuit which is controlled by the relay. So here, you put the I, which is in, you put the circuit that you want to control, that you want to switch on or off, and then when you close the relay, the same signal from here appears here, and you can use it for even digital signals. You can use it, but you can, let's say, power the device with 24 volts DC, and then actuate a circuit which is 20 volts. So really, specific use cases, but let's say the ASPM, I would use it for something like a electric heater, might be a water heater even. And the 16 ADS, I would use it for, let's say, a gas boiler, because most gas boilers, they have a circuit where when you close it, it's called call for heat. So when you close the circuit, and this is what the usual thermostats on the wall do, but it essentially signals to the boiler that it has to turn on. But if you pass 220 volts to this circuit, you're gonna fry the control board of the boiler. So in this case, you just wire one part of the circuit here and the other here, and that's it, you're done. So just to summarize differences. First, the ASPM has live switched contacts. It has an electricity meter, and it has over current, over voltage, and over power protection as well. and it has the electricity meter. Whereas the ADS, it has dry contacts, so the separate it's a separate circuit to control rather than to power on. It is the same size, it is just a different color. Again, it has FWOTA, it has overheating protection, and it doesn't have an electricity meter. But yeah, that's it about the devices and about the use cases. Honestly, both of them being just a switch, I think there are many types of use cases, like space heating, even just um, controlling outlets, or even just sub-metering them, because you might want to keep the relay closed all the time and just take advantage of the data that it gives you from the electricity metering. You can use it as I said in for demand-driven ventilation, or to control any exhaust fans, etc. Or you can use it also for water heaters. But I guess you can use it for monitoring everything, and also, let's say, controlling lights, even controlling street lights. Although we as a company, we try to stay within the building itself. But I think those two devices kind of unlock use cases for us that we haven't seen before. So I'm really curious to understand what the integrators are gonna use these devices for.
Must admit,
Craig, do
from
you have
my
any?
point of view, yeah, so
Yeah,
my point of view, when this was first launched, and I see it at well, I see it in here, and then I see it at a trade show, and I'm building another office at my home, which is an outhouse office, and the immediate thought process for me was I'm going to use these switches in my lighting, in my heating, because this office is going to be used sporadically. It won't be used kind of Monday to Friday, 9 to 5:30. It will be used kind of when I'm at home, when I'm working. And I'm going to pair it with temperature sensors as well, so that prior to me going into there, it's nice and comfortable, which is great. Making sure that when I'm away from home, I know that I've not left any heating on, I've not left any lights on, etc., etc. But also to understand the additional energy that I'm going to use. So because I can monitor the energy usage, I can actually look and put an absolute value on the cost of my home office, which now for certain tax reasons, I can then put a claim in at different things. But equally, at some point, I can understand exactly what it is costing me to work, and then there may be other things that I can do with that. It's early stages for me to kind of work out how I use that data, but certainly from a comfort level and from an understanding of cost level, there'll be no guesses from me.
yeah. What I personally use the 16 ASPM for is, okay, at my home, I have radiators, which are from the district heating. I have space heaters, electric space heaters, and then we have also air conditioners in a few rooms. And I really couldn't really match and um, just tell my wife which one is the most effective, you know. So I wired the electric heaters and the heat pump to 16 ASPM, and now I can see, okay, keeping about 24, 25. My wife likes it a little bit hotter. Cost this much with the electric space heater, and then in the same room, um, we also have a heat pump. So I can show her what is the difference. And most important, I actually understood what is the difference. But one of the key use cases and the main motivation for us to develop the 16 ASPM and the 16 ADS was electric space heaters, because those are used in a lot of types of buildings. It might be homes for the elderly, might be social housing, might be just usual residential buildings, especially in countries like France, which are primarily using nuclear power. And we wanted to have a way to kind of smartify a space heater with a very hidden installation. So we couldn't put a very big box next to it. Wanted to embed it into the wall, into the outlet box, and then we also paired it with wireless thermostat. So now people can adjust the target temperature from the wireless thermostat. The thermostat itself also measures the temperature in the room. It also has a PIR sensor. But whenever somebody enters, from setback temperature, it goes to active temperature and then heats up the room automatically. And most important thing is that people can, once they install it, they can also put schedules. And they can say, okay, from this time to this time, nobody's in the office. So in the case somebody forgets to turn off a space heater, we save energy. And a lot of the times, people ask me, how much energy can you save with those devices? And I say, well, it is the amount of energy that you're currently wasting. So, a 3 kilowatt heater forgotten for over a weekend can cost you a few euro. But then when you multiply this by a few hundred heaters and then by 12 months, it actually becomes quite a big saving. But this was our key focus, and something that is not yet out, but we're going to do it soon, is the direct device to device communication. So we have a prototype of this, but we haven't yet decided to launch it. But whenever you set the target temperature through the wireless thermostat without going through the LoRaWAN network, LN gateway, LNS application server, and then by the other way around, the message can go directly from the wireless thermostat on the wall directly to the relay in the connected to the appliance. But I want to just reiterate, all of our devices have open protocols. Some of those are already integrated into some of the IoT platforms that we partner with, so you can test them there. But also,
Sorry,
those
Luke,
devices are.
I just
Yeah.
also wanted to talk about that slide as well. I know it's not much, but I think this shows you the power of MClimate. So I was contacted yesterday by another platform provider, Daisy.io, and the
Mhm.
first thing they said is the new devices from MClimate we've onboarded and we've integrated with. So that was the very first thing they did. So I think that shows the power of the brand of what the company that you built, but also the need or the want of these devices as well, that platforms are jumping over themselves to make sure that they've got them decoded and ready to go on their platforms.
Yes, and I think in the current LoRaWAN ecosystem, it's about partnerships. Obviously, we cannot do the best platform for all the devices, but we can, being the manufacturer, knowing the devices in and out, the firmware, the hardware, the software, we can make a great way of visualizing information, kind of unlocking use cases like, okay, rules, if the window is open, then turn off the heater. But at the point when we launched the enterprise, we had some pushback. People were thinking that we want to compete with the likes of those companies here. And the truth is, we don't want to do it. We had the issue where we make a device and then it takes a few months to be, integrated into a few platforms, where in those few months, our customers or our partners cannot really test the device. So we decided, okay, let's make a platform which is going to allow our customers to do quick POCs, to see what is happening. And now, yes, we have we have a few hundred buildings that are controlled through the platform. But this is not our main goal. Our main goal is not to sell the SaaS solution. But if I have to form our mission in another way, not decarbonizing buildings, but we essentially want to make devices that unlock certain use cases. Like we want to make a device like the Wiki, for example. It unlocks the case of controlling radiators, and we don't want to be the only company that does this, and just lock everybody in our own software, because that's stupid, honestly. But that's why we try to document everything as good as possible. And of course, obviously, there I also have some requests to my colleague how to make things even better. But thanks, Craig, for the comment. With Daisy, we've worked on a few projects very successfully, I would say. But to the BMS integration, yes, those devices, they're LoRaWAN, so no cables required, no additional cables, but you can expose them as Modbus or BACnet devices. There are a few companies out there that offer gateways that can do this. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that those can be integrated also into the workflow of a typical BACnet system integrator. Now, I've taken those pages out of our user manual. Just feel compelled to say a few warning messages. So first, when you install those devices, make sure that you cut the breaker. That's important. Make sure to check if there's any voltage at the wires. Make sure that you choose the right conductor size for the appliance that you want to control. So in case you're using stranded wires, put a ferrule on top because it just makes the contact better. And then don't stick two cables into one terminal. And yeah, I mean, the device itself, it has a small LED indication next to the button. The LED indication shows you what is the current state of the LoRaWAN connectivity. So if it's connected to the server or not. If you hold the button, it's going to trigger another join request. If you click the button twice, it's going to switch the relay state. And then just observe the recommended values for cables given the max current that the appliance can draw. So from our experience, I'm not sure if those are EU-wide, but from our own experiments, this is what we advise as a minimum. And yeah, I mean, it has the button, it has the terminals, it has the LED, pretty easy to use. And then I wanted to show you some data actually. What you see from those devices. So this device first is the logo on top of our building. It has some lights inside, and previously it was driven by some cheap controller for this based on the lights, but it didn't give us any information of how much energy did we use. So we installed the 16 ASPM, and now the blue regions are essentially periods when the logo is on. The white regions is when the logo is off. The temperature is the red line, so you can see in the morning it's really cold, and then it gets hotter. And hotter, I mean, it becomes to 30 something degrees. The green line is the accumulated energy. The blue line is the voltage, so you can see the voltage actually varies quite a lot where we are. And then you have the power and the AC current. So you can see every time we turn on the logo, the electricity meter accumulates some more energy there. That's another device in the office. It's quite, it is in one of the outlets in the wall, so it's constantly on. We just use it for metering. But what we noticed were those dips in the temperature. So we managed to correlate this with an open-close sensor on the window, and we figure out when the cleaning lady comes in the morning, she opens the window. So there's draft through the wall, which goes out of the outlets and actually cools down the device. Not really useful, but just wanted to mention something interesting that we saw. And here it's another device. This is connected to a few working stations. And here I can see based on the current that is drawn, exactly when people are actually working, if they're using some sort of appliance, when they went to, let's say, lunch break, when they got into the office, when they went away. So a lot of interesting information you can get from this. And last about those graphs, but it's this one, which is connected to three things. It's the fridge, it's the microwave, and the water station. So those big spikes in current are actually the microwave running. Then the little spikes here, you can see them. I believe it's the fridge working, and then those spikes here, you can see them like this and this. It is the heating element of the water cooler, of the water station working and preheating the water. So it just gives us a little bit more idea. If I plot this based on a few weeks, I can see which days of the week is kind of, we have most people in the office because they drink water and do this. So what I'm trying to say is that I think those two devices also not only give you the possibility to control appliances, but also unlock a certain amount of intelligence just from the data. And yeah, I'm curious to see what the actual users of the devices are gonna notice. Yeah. But with this, I'm finished with the topic of the 16 ASPM and 16 ADS, and I hope it was understandable. But Craig, I'm gonna hand it over to you.
No worries. I think actually we've done a really good job because we don't actually have any questions. I've just so if you do have questions, by all means shout. But I think Lubo's done a fabulous job. Just a bit about kind of the all IoT and the MClimate offering. If you are interested in developing any solution, then just give us a call, email, phone, however you want to get in touch with us. We do have a chat facility on our website as well. We do offer free consultation, and that means that we'll go through trying to understand exactly what you're trying to deliver, give you the benefit of what we've done before, so that what we really try to do is make sure that you get a return on your investment. We don't want it's nice to do nice things, but we really want to see you have value come back, and ideally value comes in cost savings or improvement in service. But we'll do all that for free. We'll also quote you for we'll give you a shopping list as such as everything that you want, and again, it's still for free. So it's up to you whether you want to use us, use MClimate, use whoever you want. If you're happy, which most people seem to be, then we'll we'll supply all those goods. We generally have a large stock holding of everything. So then what we do is we can supply on a next day service, and then we don't stop there. We continue to support. So we can do all the provisioning for you so that it does become plug and play. We won't come to your site, unfortunately, and wire in these two devices, but we'll give you support all the way through. And then even afterwards, if you hit any problems, we have a full support desk ready to do that. For any other projects that you think might be a bit larger or you want more people involved, then I know that me and Lubo spoke yesterday, and we're very keen to try and get MClimate, All IoT, and customers all on the same call. And that way we can really support you from every angle, from the manufacturer's point, from the distributor provisioning and deployment fulfillment specialist point, as well as your integrator. You can ask or ask advice, and we can deliver that for you as well. So I think that's it from us. There's still no questions come in. So Lubo, you've done an awesome job. Thank you very much, Lubo. I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I hope everybody else has well. And we're really grateful and really appreciate being part of the MClimate distribution channel.
Thank you, and I really appreciate having All IoT as a partner in the UK, because obviously you know the market there, you know how to approach it, but yeah, I'm also quite happy that you have technical people exploring the devices, answering questions, helping the customers. And here I just want to mention that for everything commercial, basically you go to All IoT. But if you ever need some technical help, we are here, and I myself am jumping on calls with customers quite often, because to me the work doesn't stop when we ship the devices. The work starts when we ship the devices, because we've got to make sure that everything is up and running, and you don't have to take care of this building, for a few years. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that I encourage people reaching out for anything technical. I myself, as I mentioned, am technical, but also my whole team, and even the salespeople now, with all the trainings we do, they're also becoming technical. But Craig, big thanks for organizing this webinar, and for supporting our joint customers in the UK for quite a long time now.
Excellent. Cool. Right. Well, thank you all, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.